What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into the show. I want to talk some Philly spring trading. I'm such a douche that I actually have a notepad filled with positives and negatives and my takeaways from what I've seen so far out of spring trading. I basically haven't even missed a pitch yet, and that's sick. That's sick. I have an issue. I have problems, but I'm so damn pumped up just seeing Clearwater and looking around the Yankees, the Blue Jays, seeing teams get underway. Max Scherzer, even though he's on the Mets, and I can't stand looking at the Mets, just seeing Max Scherzer doing what he does, it smells like baseball. It feels like baseball. And damn it, I need real regular season baseball flowing through my veins. I'm so stoked about Kyle Schwarber, and I just heard Joe Girardi speak today on the broadcast that it seems we will see a Kyle Schwarber hopefully on Wednesday afternoon for that matchup in spring training, which tickles my fancy. But I'm so stoked and I'm so ready to rock that I'm sitting here watching extended highlights of the entire Boston Red Sox series last year in the postseason just because I'm thinking about that lefty pop right there in the beginning of the Phillies lineup that just snowballs into a Bryce Harper, that snowballs into a Nick Castellanos, that snowballs into a Rhys Hoskins and a JT Realmuto. So I'm super pumped. How I feel I'm going to do this is, I was thinking there's so many ways. I have 9 positives so far, and I have 5 negatives. What I feel most comfortable doing is 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 positive, 1 negative, 1 positive, 1 negative. Go through my list until I have about 4 positives to go. So before we get into the action, if you are new to the channel, make sure you're hitting that subscribe button and you're hitting that thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. We got a lot going on right now in the sports world, specifically with the Sixers and the Phillies, and there's a lot happening. The Eagles are making some signings, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're looking to buy tickets to go to any event out there, you can utilize the promo code BROADS at SeatGeek's checkout page for $20 off. There's so many great prices happening right now, and I'm basically eliminating those fees for you. You can put that towards parking. Promo code BROADS, SeatGeek's checkout, and then lastly, TikTok, Broads Media. We're doing a lot of fun things over there, so make sure you hit the follow button on TikTok, and let's roll right into it. So my number one, and I guess these really aren't labeled or numbered, I should say. They're just bullet points, so I'm sure you could tell which ones are more important than the others, but I'm going to start with my number 1 positive on my bullet point list. I just made the same mistake again. Bullet point number 1, Seranthony Dominguez. This guy's up there just bringing the heat, giving me 97, upper 90s, blowing it by guys. Hey, how's a slider for you too? That's going to be incredible. And I heard Jim Salisbury speak about what Seranthony Dominguez has looked like so far from a body structure standpoint. Looks good weight-wise, looks good throwing off the bullpen sessions. He just looks like he's prepared and he's mentally ready to clock in and go throw. And he didn't skip a beat. A 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna strike out the damn side. I was like, are you serious? Not one hiccup along the way, not one pitch that didn't satisfy me. And if he's gonna be able to utilize that slider the way that he does, then I think we're gonna be in for one. We might have something here with Seranthony Dominguez. Now, I'm not gonna tell you one spring training game means now that this is it. But one, based off the fact that we have been a disaster in that area, I think this is why I feel as excited as I do, because that is a monster struggle. You need to cut back so many blown saves that you got last year to the point where if you just evaporated half of those blown saves, and you would even think about the year before where they were on a historic pace of one of the most disturbing set of individuals in a bullpen the history of baseball has ever seen, up there. 2. It's up there. Oh, the Phillies. They are something else. But knowing what he was capable of doing prior to the injury, there's skill there. That kid was a dog when he had the ball in his hands. And now I feel he's even more motivated considering he lost so much time with the injury and had to go through a lot and had to rehab a lot, missed a lot of time. There almost seems to be a fuck you attitude right now out of Seranthony, and I'm here for it. What he did today was something that could change the trajectory of what you are going to do based off the fact that your bullpen needs some patchwork. And I don't know necessarily what everyone's going to bring. I'm sure just because it's the nature of physics, if you will, you're going to attack a bullpen with 5 guys. Well, I hate to break it to you. As much as we desperately need 5 guys, some will work, some won't work. So a combination of some of these players that were brought in, whether it's Brad Hand or Familiar, or maybe Jose Alvarado ends up stinking and being someone that it's so terrible that you have no idea where the location is going to go. Even worse than it was last year, that he's not a manageable piece, which would suck considering he's a lefty. But you understand my point, where you just don't know. You have no sense of who's going to be able to be a name that constantly gets called out on. And Seranthony Dominguez, he has a skill, though. He could blow you away with some speed. And then you talk about working in a slider. There's something to this that could maybe be a guy that you bring on the mound, you go, we got this. Oh, we're golden. So I love Seranthony. I'm fist pumping by myself, and I'm screaming as loud as possible. I loved everything about Seranthony Dominguez. Just the confident walk, too, from the dugout to, or from the mound to the dugout after he got that third strike on that last strikeout. I mean, seriously? Do you see the way the ball's moving out of his hands right now? Oh, Seranthony Dominguez. Okay, to our negatives. Aaron Nola. So Aaron Nola faced the Blue Jays. A couple 2-strike counts, was blasted. And one guy happened to be Vlad Guerrero Jr. We know how insane Vlad Guerrero Jr. is. And I'm sure you're working on some things, and obviously you're not your full throwing maximum if you're Aaron Nola, but an 0-2 count and Vlad Guerrero Jr. takes it over the wall, and there's probably 9,000 feet past the wall. I still think right now today, as you're listening to the show, the ball is still moving in the air, trying to find somewhere to land. That's how much he tattooed the living hell out of it. But I'm not going to over analyze it and just say that, well, Aaron Nola's screwed now because of a 2-strike homer. And then there was another 2-strike homer. And going back to last year, it was such a glaring problem with not just Aaron Nola, but a lot of the pitching staff in general, which it probably came down to theory and their beliefs and how they wanted to approach certain hitters and how they were targeting the strike zone a certain way when it was an 0-2 count or when it was a 1-2 counter. I mean, specifically Aaron Nola on full counts, you could see the damage that other players did to him. It was a scary sight. It just shouldn't happen at the rate that it does. But when he doesn't have his fastball command, and on top of it, his velocity isn't overpowering, so he starts to nibble with some off speed. He starts to bounce around the plate a bit. And then when you don't feel as smooth as you need to with your fastball command, then maybe you hang something over the middle of the plate. And in this league, when you make a mistake, yeah, there's an opponent on the other side that's ready to barrel it up and definitely hit one off the wall, drive one off the wall, get a stand-up double, knock in a couple runs, or just your traditional how do you do and taking a nice jog and trot around the bases. So that's the problem for Aaron Nola dating back to last season. Excuse me. And when you think about his first start here, he had some nice things out there for sure. It wasn't all just garbage, but the same talking points of last year has dominoed affected. Terrible language, horrible grammar. There has been a domino effect to his first spring training start here in the new season. I just want to be very clear. I'm not telling you that things that happen in spring training automatically relates to what we're going to see in the postseason. Maybe Aaron Nola is back to a top 3 in the NL style pitcher tied to an Aaron Nola, tied to a Zach Wheeler. That's everything we need right now. How crazy is this? You go back to teams that had such horrible defenses and lethal weapon style of pop in the lineup. You have to go back to the Detroit Tigers. And oh, by the way, that Detroit Tigers team was Dave Dombrowski. So how it comes full circle where this man has built a team this way way before, and they generated a ton of success. Now, they had a guy by the name of Justin Verlander, and oh, by the way, there was another individual by the name of Max Scherzer, and they had some unreal talent that could swing the stick. But if there is concerns about what this defense can't do and what they're going to need to do to succeed, if there is anyone that has witnessed this and applied this to a roster in the past, it so happened to be the man, the myth, the legend, Dave Dombrowski. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're watching this team butcher the ball all over the place and botch all sorts of routes in the outfield, because that's basically going to be inevitable. It just comes down to, can you score 7 runs for those 6 runs and 3 of them being unearned? Can you match it and then add some so your team could win a ball game by 3 runs, but the score's 10-7, because that might be an outcome more times than you would like to. We'll see what Aaron Nola is going to be. I have my concerns, though. I don't need him to be where he was back when he had that one season. He can't be what he was last year, but if you can give me a consistent 3.5 ERA, a 3 ERA, that's what I'm asking for out of Aaron Nola. Last year, it was in the 4s. I needed to be closer to 3 this season, and I think behind Zach Wheeler, it could be something that has some life to it. Is Zach Wheeler that level of Zach Wheeler consistently? I don't know. It's going to be very difficult for someone to do that again. Hey, duplicate that unreal season you had, the best of your career. Now, he's been injured. He's been banged up. Maybe this is what Zach Wheeler can be. And I'm not here talking negative. I think this team, and I haven't really said this yet publicly, but when I think about what this team could do, I think they can win 88 games, which is not a division winner. They still have to have a big uphill battle to look at the Atlanta Braves. Everyone's already writing in the Mets because Uncle Steve is spending a lot of cash. But until I see the Mets actually do it, I'm not telling you they can do it. I'm not saying it's impossible, but knowing their background as a franchise, you better prove it to me first before I feel any sort of type of way about committing to what the Mets can be and then competing for a division. I know what their talent is on paper, but DeGrom hasn't been able to stay healthy for quite some time when it comes to a season. Max Scherzer's a dog. He's my favorite competitor, I feel, in sports. He's up there with my LeBron love and my Serena Williams love for sure, because there's something different about how this man is wired. Look at his pitch count in spring training. This doesn't make any sense, yet you don't tell Max Scherzer what to do. He's out there throwing what he wants to throw. It's amazing. I see this team has 88 wins. 87 wins, 88 wins, and making the postseason. And sure, that might have to do with the expanded playoffs, but that's reality of the situation now, and that's what the league is. So I can't control that. This is an opportunity for the Phillies to get to where they need to be. All right, so that was my first bullet point negative, Aaron Nola. Let's go to my second bullet point of my positives. Bryson Stott at-bats look comfortable. I watched a few now. He led off today's game against the Detroit Tigers, and when he's in the box, he doesn't look overmatched. He doesn't look confused. He doesn't look like it's too much going on. He seems poised. He looks like he's feeling the strike zone, and he's feeling the pitching, and it's not overbearing. It's not too much on his shoulders. You could see each swing, and honestly, there was one cut. He's left-handed. I just gave you the old right-handed because that's what I am. But he gave you a cut. He fouled it off, and he tipped it back. But it almost had a bit of a Bryce Harper in it, I swear to God. And I don't know if I can necessarily describe it for you right now. It's something if I showed you a visual, then you'd be able to see it. And in theory, I guess I could pop it up on the screen, but I'm a very lazy individual, and it would probably take me a minute or two to find it out. So forget it. I'm not lazy. Don't say that, bro. You're not lazy. You're a hardworking son of a bitch. Don't shoot yourself down like that. Okay, I won't. Anyway, I'll continue. You think about the way that he's in the box. So I watched him, his first at-bat, just work a nice count, and then he put good bat on ball. It just went to center field, and the play was made. But I liked the way of his approach and the way that he was standing in that box. He earned a walk, and then also for his third at-bat, he falls down a couple strikes, looks at a few strikes in the zone, acknowledges, okay, fouls a couple off, and during that process, he's got a good eye. A ball goes outside, an off-speed pitch that wasn't even competitive whatsoever, so he let it go to the outside. outside corner. There was a pitch on the inside part of the plate that was low and inside. He did not bite on that either. And then he just earned a professional walk after falling down and having the battle tested. I just like the way that Bryson Stott right now feels it. And when you sign Schwarber and when you sign Castellanos, there is this added new life. Now, in theory, we understood that there was already going to be a battle between Didi and Bryson Stott at shortstop. And now you factor in the Alec Bohm department, and more on him in just a little bit of time. But even now, third base is possibly open up, where how ironic that we were talking about a shortstop platoon, really a center field platoon, and then possibly a shortstop platoon, or not really a platoon, but I guess two players trying to battle out who's going to win that job. But now all of a sudden the left side of the infield is just a wild card, and it's a big question mark. You can go one or two ways if you're Bryson Stott or a young player in general. When your organization starts bringing in some serious boppers, some serious home run power, it changes the narrative about what you are. Now, you can technically hide Bryson Stott a bit more, where everyone's going to be invested in Bryce Harper, Gene Segura, JT Realmuto, Nick Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, where Bryson Stott living in the ninth hole and being a 9-hole hitter, he could just focus on playing good defense. You know the team stinks in that department, so bring some sort of positive in that area. Be that, and then you could just be the bottom of the ninth, the bottom of the batting order, hitting ninth, and don't worry about it. If you hit 190 in the first 2 months or so, just keep plucking away. You'll be worried about all those top players in your batting order. I mean, maybe there's something to that. But you can see with Alec Bohm that I think there's already this noise, the circulation, the monkeys on the shoulders type of thing for Alec Bohm, and he's doing the complete opposite. While one guy is seizing the moment and seizing the opportunity, the other guy is just a disaster. Alec Bohm is a complete mess right now. He did a horrendous job in the field in this game against the Tigers on, is it Tuesday afternoon, where he had to bare hand the ball. He definitely did with one hand, but he couldn't do it. He bobbled it. And realistically, it would have been a bang-bang play at first base anyway. But it's really about the principle. It's about the point of, hey, boom, this is Major League Baseball, and you're a third baseman. You have to make that play. It's just unacceptable where you got to at least make it a potential play at first base, because now hitters know, right? If they know you're a third baseman who can kind of get in a tough area and kind of make something happen possibly, it's added pressure on the hitter getting out of the box, and it changes everything. Where Alec Bohm, you are so bad. And then there's a play where he's going to his left. He scoops up the ground ball. He throws the ball to Hall over at first base, and he takes him off the bag because the throw is 5 feet wide to Hall's left and to Alec Bohm's right. If you're looking at it from behind Alec Bohm's perspective, throwing the ball to first base, he takes him off the bag by 5 feet. Now the player's safe at first. That's a simple, basic Major League Baseball play. So he was terrible in the field, absolutely terrible at the fielding position. And then you see him at the plate, popping it up, dinky little ground ball to the first base side. They turn 2 on him. So for as much as I'm praising how Bryson Stott seems cool right now and the moment's not getting too big, it's the complete opposite for Alec Bohm, who it might get to a point where he's unplayable. And I'm sure, knowing the history of what Alec Bohm has provided for this organization last season, and Dave Dombrowski was vocal. He did claim that he's our guy, but I think he did that to try and build his confidence. He's going to be our starting third baseman. He's got a lot to work on. He needs to focus on the hitting. He's got to focus on the fielding as well. And now that you got 9,000 DHs, it makes it more difficult to plug him in just as a DH spot, which would have been nice, but then your team probably would have stunk because you don't have the bats that we're all excited about right now. I know Austin Riley is the example that people bring up on someone that did have some tough earlier moments in the career, get sent down, kind of work their way back, start at the back end of the batting order, and then continue to creep forward as your confidence grew. But with Alec Bohm, it might be one of those. And when you do the smell test, it smells like something that just might not work out. Now, the fear is, and I was talking to one of my buddies about it, you end up moving on from Alec Bohm, and what happens? He goes to an AL team or he goes to a different team, and he starts to really rake Now, you got Kevin Long, and if you're excited about a hitting coach that specifically brought the best out of Kyle Schwarber, maybe there's something to be said about Alec Bohm, and there's just not enough time yet for it to fully resonate, and you get the bit of the jitters because you know that there's a lot of talking points towards Alec Bohm already, so he just needs a little bit of time to get out of that. It's just spring training. I have to remind myself that because I enjoy talking about it, and I enjoy watching every pitch of spring training. At the same time, though, I think that there's a line. So understand that these guys haven't seen ball in a while. Understand, too, that there was a lockout. You didn't really know when you were going to be back on the diamond or be back in Florida and get your season rolling, even though you have to stay prepared, and that's part of your job duties, knowing that there's a back and forth in the negotiation that, hey, at some point we are going to come to an agreement, and when we do, I have to step on that field and put my cleats out there and be able to perform because this team desperately needs me at third base. I do not feel good about Alec Bohm at all. Okay, so let's get to the number 3 positive bullet point. Bryce Harper's bat speed. I mean, he just looks like Bryce Harper. He had a single today, a nice RBI single. The ball just came off the bat beautifully. He got robbed earlier because there was a shift going on, and obviously one day at one point in the near future, that won't be the case, and Bryce Harper's batting average and everything's going to shoot up, just like majority of lefties. And you think about the CBA and you think about some guys getting contracts. Imagine how much different these numbers are going to look like for some of these superstars, and honestly, probably some of these below average players might turn into average players because there's more space to put the ball through the infield, and there's, an opportunity maybe to get some more hits based off the ban of the shift. But Bryce Harper got robbed with one. It was an 0-2 count. He just roped it. And of course, you had a second baseman in the outfield concept going on, and that pulled away a hit of his. But he also had a nice one today. The crack of the bat was just awesome. Got a nice RBI in there, and I just feel he looks good. He looks good, and not that I expected him to look bad by any means, but if we started spring training and Bryce Harper got off to a little bit of a slower start, or, we saw him just look a little tad off, we'd say, oh, it's understandable. We get it. But the fact that he's grooving this early and looks like a solid Bryce Harper to this point is definitely something that I am looking at with a big smile on my face every time he steps into that batter's box, even if it is spring training. Isn't that crazy? It's crazy what stars can do. And that's why with Kyle Schwarber, the fact that he's playing on Wednesday, well, that's what Joe Girardi said that they were pushing to do, was to get him playing Wednesday. I can't wait for Castellanos. Dude, this lineup is going to be freakishly good, and there's so much power. There's going to be some devastating defensive woes, though, and there's going to be some extra added pitches from some of your bullpen pieces. We kind of saw that today as well, and that is actually a bullet point that we'll get to eventually. So let's go to the negatives as we keep flip-flopping, because I don't want to blow my load on all the positives and then just end the show with a bunch of negatives, and I don't want to just start out of the gate real quickly and just bash the Phillies forever and ever and ever and then end the show on some positive rant of all these electrifying things. I felt maybe the way to do it is I'll ride the emotional highs and lows just like we're about to experience throughout a 162. I'll kill you with kindness, and then I'll hurt you with some really tough moments that are going to happen, and I'm just making sure that you are grasping that, and then you're putting it in the back of your brain, so when we finally say, that's right, bro's already told me that at the end of April. Is it April? No, it's March. April. It almost is April, though. It's March. April. The hell is going on in my head? I don't know. Okay, Odubel Herrera's injury is on my negative list. Now, I'm sure some are thinking, Brodes, you're an idiot and you're a moron. Nobody likes him anyway, and he's not very good. I'm not going to argue to you that he's great. I do feel that he's better than people give him credit for. Not that he's good, but he's a 260 hitter that does have pop, and if that's an 8-hole hitter or a 9-hole hitter, I want to look around the league other than the Dodgers and see how many guys in the 8th spot in Major League Baseball can give you 260. Now, we know they're going to platoon, and there's a lefty and a righty with Matt Vierling, but my point is, with Odubel, it's less about it being Odubel, and it's more just the fact that they've made it a known fact that we are going to platoon the center field position. It's not about Odubel. It's about just in general, you had a game plan. Your game plan was center field. Odubel Herrera was part of that game plan. He is not available for you at this moment. Maybe Matt Vierling can take the job right from him and run with it. Look, let's be honest with ourselves. Last year, it was never Odubel Herrera's job to take. So many people failed. Well, maybe Matt Vierling succeeds, and then that's all she wrote for Odubel Herrera. I don't know. I mean, you got the lefty and the righty, so I'm sure at some point maybe it ends up being in that direction anyway. But I don't like the fact that a body, regardless of who the body is, a body that was supposed to be a part of your team in a serious way. If you get a bench player that's a little nicked up, I'm not downplaying what a role player off the bench would mean to a team, because as we saw with Bamboo Brad in Chicago at Wrigley Field last year, if you need 3 bombs in a game and Brad Miller wasn't there for you on that night, then that's going to be something. Now, there's a difference between starting a role player and a role player coming off the bench. You get my point in general, though. Odubel Herrera was part of their philosophy. Whether you like it or not, a part of their mindset is not going to be active for you right now, and who knows how long this is going to linger. There is going to be imaging involved, so something to note. So a body that they had in their eyesight and something that they were going to plug in is not going to be there for him. Maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Maybe that's not a negative when it's all said and done. But as for right now, before I know the knowledge on if I can count on a Matt Vierling or not, I'm personally going to put that on my negative list. All right, here's a positive for you. Familia hitting 96 with a couple Ks. The only issue is Alec Bohm's issues were what kept him involved in the game. And you're going to have somewhat of a shaky bullpen. I don't anticipate this bullpen being much better than last year just from skill set. Now, maybe there could be better execution involved, but their skill set is somewhat in the same ballpark as what we saw last season. Archie Bradley, Hector Neris, we're Familia, Brad Hand, Knable. Now, the difference is maybe a Seranthony Dominguez addition could now make that top last year's bullpen. That wasn't even an option for you. Now it is. So that does change things, and maybe that will make you deeper and have more reliable arms. Just from right now, before we know what Seranthony Dominguez really is, and you just look at the additions other than that, it seems like you had players in Archie Bradley, a Hector Neris, and you filled that with other experienced guys on some one-year deals, taking a flyer and hoping that they can succeed. The problem is when you do that and you know that they can be shaky, you can't keep giving the other team other outs. I don't even care if you have a good pitcher. If you have a very good pitcher out there, it could still haunt you a ton because other teams are very talented too, and they will punch you in the jaw if you're going to give them more. Like even the Phillies. Think about the Phillies, right? Let's say Schwarber, Gene, Harper, Reese, JT, Didi. If they're getting second outs or 4 outs, I should say, and you give them more outs in an inning, they're going to crush the baseball and runs will go cross home plate. So keep that in your mind, even if it's a good pitcher. So what's going to happen when it's an average / shaky pitcher, or even if it's a pitcher that's on a nice run out of the pen in the last couple of opportunities they had and a couple of outings they had? It can happen with a blink of an eye. You remember Connor Brogdon, for example? Now, this is a little bit different. It's not necessarily pointing out how errors can hurt a bullpen pitcher, but just in terms of what one outing can do for a reliever. So you got to limit how bad it can get out there. And the more and more you keep guys on base, now it's first and second, now it's bases loaded. You can count on relief pitchers once in a blue moon, but I know it's not their bread and butter, and it's not what I need them to be, demanding out of some of these guys. When Connor Brogdon got shelled, it seemed that went his confidence instantly, and bang, he kind of went on that downward spiral for a bit. You still see that he's got a skill set that I feel can work in this league and be dynamic and be a good bullpen player for you, no doubt about it. But it just shows you that one little uh-oh can become a big uh-oh. And if you're going to make mistakes out there and keep guys like Familia out there, is it Familia's fault, or is it now the fact that you're forcing him to do things that realistically is a recipe for disaster from the jump for him, and then even pitchers that know what the hell they're doing at a higher rate? But I did like the fact, just to get back to Familia, and what did stand out to me and what I liked was the 96 and Just some really nice pitches worked in there as well. It's just unfortunate he ended up having to battle a higher leverage situation, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe you get that little adrenaline pump going. You get those nerves kind of kicked in a bit. Not that it was your fault, but I hate to break it to any pitcher on this team. You're going to experience it. You have to know right from the jump, you are going to have to work through a ton of adversity, because if you feel that this team is going to shut it down for, even though they bring in a Ronald Torreyes, how about that, our guy Ronnie? Ronnie comes back and he's going to be seeing if he gets any top team time or not. We'll see with Ronnie. But, you got to go down that road again. Not that I would ever anticipate him to have some sort of Ronnie Torreyes run that he had last season. But that sure was a lot of fun. I liked what Familia did, though. All right, back to our disappointing times. Rhys Hoskins missing that pop-up in foul territory, and that game was one of the worst games I've seen. What a great transition. I saw Gene Segura bobble a ball at second base. I saw Munoz over at third. The ball went right between his thigh and his glove as he was trying to make a play at third base. I saw Mickey Moniak and Matt Vierling run into each other over in right center field. The ball went in there. Mickey Moniak tries to dive. Matt Vierling almost dives on top of him. Obviously, center field has final say. I don't know where the communication factor was going there, but it looked more like Moniak's issue than Matt Vierling, even though I think both had a calls in it, and they both had a piece of the pie, a chunk of the pie, a piece of the pizza, if you will. I don't know why it matters what food I'm using to tell my story. I think everybody gets the point. So that happened. Rhys Hoskins, basic play in foul territory. The ball is right underneath of him, and he somehow misses. And I would chalk it up to, who cares if that was JT Realmuto, if that was a Bryce Harper. I would. I'd probably reference it and throw it out there, but I wouldn't care as much as if it's Bohm or Rhys Hoskins, because I will put my mortgage down that this happens to Rhys Hoskins throughout the regular season. But those are the type of ones that have to be changed. Alec Bohm charging a ground ball, that's a dribbler, and there's going to be a bang-bang play at first base, even though he needs to do significantly better than what he does in that area right now if he's going to want to make it in this league. And he has to start hitting the damn baseball too, and I don't know if that's ever going to turn around. I think he's so lost mentally. He's so broken and he's so defeated that he doesn't even know where to go. And the season just began. The spring training season just began. The fact that he's this low and in such a dark place already, and I could tell. I could see it in his face. I could see it in his body language. I could see it when he's trotting out of the box, when he pops it up and he realizes that he's out. It's all over his expressions that he's in a horrendous spot. But my point is, getting back to Rhys Hoskins, is that play is even on a different level of disgusting, and you have to deliver in that moment. A foul ball that's all the way up in the air in 2 inches in foul territory from first base. I'm sorry, Rhys, but that's an embarrassment, and you need to be sharper. This one's kind of a little silly. There's a couple. I guess I'll throw a little bit of these almost in the same package. Corey Knebel went a 1-2-3 inning. Just to highlight that. That's more of at the bottom, you do your quick hitters, you do your quick notes. That's sort of just a quick notes. There's something else I'm looking for word-wise to describe what I'm saying, but it's almost like those bullet points off to the side after you read an article, and it's like, hey, quick notes here. There's still something else I'm thinking of. I was hoping that would buy me time for me to fully get it and say it to you all, but I just don't know, and I think I'm going to give up at this point. But Corey Knebel with the 1-2-3 inning. Let's see how he continues to build off that. How about Nick Maton with a little bit of defense and some offense? He had a play at shortstop where he outreached his arms, and it was a snow cone, and I couldn't even, the broadcast moved so quickly, I couldn't even comprehend how he made that play. But is there something to the Nick Maton that we saw last year? I'm not telling you anything crazy. I'm not telling you starter stuff, but is there something to the player of Nick Maton as a utility guy, a bench? Is there something to Nick Maton as all? I don't know. Had a couple hits. We'll see. Good defense at shortstop. Made a big play. Seems to be taking where he was last year and building off of that. Let's be very clear. Already mentioned it in the show, but just want to reiterate it because as time moves forward, I think that there's a lot that forget that I mentioned. This is spring training. This is spring training. This does not mean that it's relating to regular season play or anything I'm mentioning right now is going to matter game 72 of the season when the Phillies are in a fight for the NL East. But in terms of what I'm seeing now, I could only break down and talk about what my eyes are witnessing at this very moment. And if your response is, well, then don't talk about it. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You think you're going to stop me from discussing Bryson Stott and how cool he looks in the batter's box right now and how he's earning some tough walks? He falls down behind in the count. He's got 2 strikes on him. He's fouling off pitches. He's staying alive. 7 pitch at-bats. Not that that's anything mind-blowing by any means, but I'm talking about a dude who's super young. Well, super young in terms of experience. He actually did go through the whole college ball, and he is in the middle 20 range with his age. So he's not an 18, 19-year-old kid like you see some of the studs who come into this league nowadays and, takes the league over by storm. But there's pressure when you get the nod for the big leagues, and Dave Dombrowski says that you could be fighting with Didi Gregorius for a chance to be the Phillies starting shortstop. And he looks that good. He looks that comfortable. He looks like he fits right now. There's like a swag about him. So just because that's happening now, don't lose sight of it's just a discussion of things that I'm noting. It's the Philly spring training notebook. That's all. And I'm allowed to have this damn notebook. Just bouncing around a little bit more. I thought JT Realmuto looked okay when he was swinging the baseball. But I think him, and I had Bob Wankel on of Crossing Broad on the Fanatic over the weekend, and we were kind of discussing the big moves, and then we kind of talked about the lineup and what he thought maybe would be best for the Phillies, and we were kind of just throwing some ideas around, right? And one thing that I mentioned was the fact that JT Realmuto, Didi Gregorius. I brought up Didi as a lefty that could break up a couple righties in a row or something if you're thinking about the lineup, because at some point you got Harper batting third, Castellanos batting fourth. A lot of people are throwing Rhys Hoskins behind him in the 5 spot, and then JT in the 6, and that would be 3 righties in a row. Now, we know that with a certain matchup, if there's a lefty on the mound, you're going to go heavy with right-handed hitters anyway, and it's going to be a methodical game regardless of what you want to say right now about the lineup. It's not going to stay the same. It's 2022 baseball, and it's going to be moving all over the map considering what the other team is starting and who their weapon is of choice on that mound. But anyway, in theory, though, it would break up Didi, a left-handed bat, instead of 3 righties in a row. Maybe you could slot in a Didi, but Didi would have to be pulling the ball to the right field side and hitting a lot of monster bombs, and I just don't know if that's something that we are going to get this year. Last year, he was such a disaster. The year before, there was still something left in the Didi Gregorius tank, so I feel he's probably more like the version that could play than the version that can play. Anyway, the reason I brought this up is because you feel that with JT and Didi Gregorius, and Bob Wankel referenced this, that they were just more banged up than they led you on to feel. When you think about where they were as a duo, JT and his lingering problems, Didi and what he was feeling, they probably did not let you know how bad it was with their bodies, and that's a reason why you're talking horrible numbers for both of them. Not as bad for JT. JT, though, when I first saw him swing the bat out there in spring training, I liked what I saw out of JT. And the alternative is not liking what I saw or just being about it. So I'll look at this as a positive and make sure that I note it as something that satisfies me, because the alternative right now in this very moment is, I don't know. I haven't said I don't know about a lot of these guys. Wheeler's throwing. I was saying I don't know when the first news I saw was he's not going to be throwing. He's a little bit off track. And oh, by the way, he's got the flu. Now, with all due respect to everything that happened with the COVID, we're in a totally different world now. So when someone has the flu, and we're talking about a pitcher that's already noted to be a little bit off and not where he wants to be, and he had a bit of a flare-up, so he took some time off. Oh, it's just precautionary. You say that, and I'm not believing you, because anything that's talked about with a pitcher, I tend to say, you're a liar. You're telling me false information. There's 0% of me that believes in you. Now, if I'm proven wrong, then okay, I will admit I was wrong. But when people start making all sorts of claims about a certain pitcher, and, well, it's not happening because of X, Y, and Z, he's hurt. He's hurt. He'll be out for another stint on the IL. He'll be out on a stint after that. But with Zach Wheeler, all right, it seems like he's getting going again. Okay, it's like court. It's you're guilty, or you're what is it? You're good until proven guilty. I guess maybe this is the other way around, right? I'm saying you're guilty until you prove me otherwise. So I don't know. I guess I'm completely wrong with that one. What else do we got? Schwarber on Wednesday. That's really where I think I have everything in my mind with the thoughts of this team through their first couple of games of spring training. I want to thank everyone so much for hanging out with me in the chat. I'm curious what you guys are thinking and how you feel this team is. Vince Jordan says some clown said Hoskins should be leading off. No, Rhys Hoskins should not be leading off. There was a thought of him batting second. I don't want him batting second, though. It wouldn't be the worst case in the world. I could think of uglier thoughts. If you are a baseball fan and a Phillies fan, there's probably worst case scenarios than that. But I don't want him to lose sight of, I need to rock the baseball. And I think in the 2 spot, you'll worry about walks again, because he did that last time, and he walked a ton. He had an obnoxious amount of walks. I think it was somewhere along the lines of 119. For some reason, 119 is what pops into my head. 116. In 2019, he walked 116 times. He only bat 226. And the personality of this squad is going to be moonshots. It's going to be crush the baseball. You need to value what Rhys Hoskins is able to bring. Now, maybe there's some sort of blend that we can do where he still values the walk, but he's going to be more active on swinging and making sure he's barreling up the baseball, because under Gabe Kapler, they were so satisfied with so many walks. Him and Carlos Santana. And I'm not telling you walks are a bad thing by any means, especially when you're hitting right before Bryce Harper. And oh, by the way, Kyle Schwarber is in front of Rhys Hoskins at that point. And then you have Castellanos. So you're telling me you're getting blitzed with Schwarber, Rhys Hoskins, Bryce Harper, Castellanos, JT, Didi? There's something to that. I like Gene, though. And Gene would be your 7th hole hitter or so at that point if Rhys batted second. I like Gene batting second. I don't know why there's as much controversy about him batting second. He's basically giving you around 300 when he bats in that area. Get on base in front of Bryce Harper, and we'll kind of see what happens there. But yeah, saying that Rhys Hoskins is going to be leading off is just silly for sure. Jim states that opposing pitchers are going to have nightmares about this lineup. Some will outright wet the bed. I think it's going to be dangerous, especially when you have to go 2 times through the line. Now you're seeing them again. And sure, you can try and mix up your repertoire and you can try and make them fooled, but you ain't going to be looking like Seranthony Dominguez the way he looked up there today, making hitters look fooled and guessing nonstop. They're going to make adjustments too. These are professional hitters and real hitters. We're not playing around with Luke Williams, Travis Jankowski, Roman Quinn. Look, Freddie Galvis has a respected little career as a joke guy and as a hardworking defender, but you ain't playing this anymore. Even the Nick Matons, these guys who are playing way too much baseball last season. They were basically your team. And Bryce Harper alongside Zach Wheeler and Rhys Hoskins had his moments. There were some other pieces. Gene Segura did okay, better than okay. There were some pieces to it, but the reason why you ended up having your cap is because those were the type of players that were playing seriously, and now it'll be Schwarber. The only problem at this point is, while I'm mentioning these names, Castellanos actually grades worse than Kyle Schwarber when you think about their defensive metrics, and that's something scary to process. I always thought, just from the surface level, both guys suck defensively. Let's be very clear. I always thought both guys were a horrible option in the outfield, but just from my eye, without going down deep into the analytical department of the defensive metrics and all, I would have thought that, Castellanos can maybe hang in there a little bit more than Kyle Schwarber, but the numbers are just telling you otherwise. And think about that. Sit down, breathe, and think about that. Stott should be starting on opening day, but I doubt it happens. This is from Kyle. Well, you have to think about his time, and the clock and all of that. I don't know what their plan is going to be with Bryson Stott. They made it seem he was going to battle for the starting job right out of spring training. Now, maybe that's something just to motivate Didi Gregorius. Imagine being a veteran, being around the block, played a lot of baseball, played for the Yankees. You are a respected guy. Excuse me, Dave? I might, what? Lose the job to Stott? I don't think they give up on Bohm so early. But at one point in this season, you'll probably see Didi Gregorius playing third, and you'll probably see Bryson Stott playing short. I feel at some point in this season. Is it going to be right from when the season begins? I don't know. I like to listen to a lot of the people that cover the team, obviously, as you kind of hear me reference them throughout the show. But I was listening to Scott Lauber, and knowing that it's been a quick, and it's going to be a quick spring training, and everything's just getting thrown on these players, is it fair to put Bryson Stott in that spot or tell Didi Gregorius, you're going to get the nod, but you better make the most of it, at least early on? Is there enough time for Didi to technically lose his job with this spring training the way that it has been handled basically since the lockout happened, if that makes sense? So I can't wait, though, to see this team compete every single night. Sheepdog believes that Philly's playoff run is all on the bullpen. It's not all on the bullpen because the identity of this team is going to be raking the baseball. So it's actually on their offense. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not other important pieces to what this team is going to need to happen to accomplish. Right? You need good starting pitching. You need good starting pitching. You need Wheeler to be awesome. You need Nola to not be Aaron Nola that's going to be a 4+ ERA that can get shelled and have a blow-up inning. He can give you 6 strikeouts. He can be cruising and breezing through a lineup and then get stuck in the 5th inning, and here's run after run after run. The ball's going through the gap. The ball's leaving the ballpark. The ball's getting roped down the left field line, right? You name it. You can just see him get defeated and crushed, and it's just demoralizing for sure. So it's going to be important to have players in your starting rotation and in your bullpen, and you can't be blowing saves like we've witnessed the last 2 seasons. Now, it's been so damn historically bad that you feel at some point it'll even out. They have to cash in on one of these relievers to a serious degree at some point based off of their hit rate as of late. Like, it's so bad. It's so awful. And even Dave Dombrowski trying some things last year. Matt Klentak has no eye for baseball, but Dave Dombrowski does. And you got okay from Ian Kennedy. There were definitely a ton of outings where we were nervous, and the Ian Kennedy experience made you very, very queasy in the stomach, but with bases loaded and 1 out, he got you on the ground into a double play, or he got 1 strikeout to make it 2 outs, and then he had a fly ball out the deep center field, but the catch was made right by the warning track, and then there was a big sigh of relief. He got some saves, and he got some high fives from his teams after the game, or from his teammates after the game, but he definitely made you earn it emotionally, no doubt. Knowing it's been such a small percentage of players that have panned out, they are due for bullpen players to not blow it to the level that we have seen over the last 2 years. So that matters. My point is, your team is built for what? It's built for the offensive players to have success. If that doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter as much about your bullpen, because you're going to need to score 7 runs to win 7-5. You'll need to win 8-4. You're going to need to win 9-7. That's how you're going to have to win ball games, and nobody's hiding that. It's been pretty clear. And like I mentioned, Dave Dombrowski actually has a track record, if you look at what he did with Detroit, building this way. Do they have the same type of talent at the top end of their rotation? I can't say the answer is yes to that, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen. Let's see what else is going on in the chat. Nolan mentions his lineup. Nolan would go with Schwarber, Segura, Harper, Castellanos, Hoskins, Real Muto, Gregorius, Bohm / Stott, and Herrera. Yeah, I'm in the same exact category, Nolan. I think that is a very fine batting order, like I said, I'm always willing to see if Didi can sneak up one. And then that would mean JT, though, is now batting at that point. He would be batting 7th, which is pretty deep for him. But if it's deep, it just shows you on what type of talent is on your roster, more so anything than JT. The way that I describe JT, and to be clear, I don't think that that's going to be the case where Didi is going to be sneaking up into the 6th over JT Realmuto. It's more just a righty-lefty thing than anything else. With JT, and I've been on the record talking about this prior. I just think that he's a good complementary piece. You can't demand some sort of dominant excellence offensively from JT. He's a good hitter for the position, and he's a good hitter in Major League Baseball as a whole. But, because there's not a lot of catchers, you have an advantage at that position over other teams. We know what Buster Posey has done in his career. We know what Yadier Molina in the past did in his career, still hanging on. I mean, you watch him last year. It's like, I can't believe this guy's still going, but he's still going. Tattoos and all. That's something that is always pointed out to me when I watch Yadier Molina, but I'm always drawn to tattoos in general. You have an advantage in that position. He's a good complementary piece. But if you're now asking him to be something super serious and something you need desperately to win a lot of baseball games, JT's not that. He's an overall solid package. He's a good veteran professional. He's just a good a body to have around approach-wise, and it sets your culture the right way in your clubhouse. He's a hell of a defender behind the plate. There's question marks about the way he calls games, of course, based off of the Andrew Knapp debate that some dopes actually wanted to bring up last year, that Andrew Knapp should be our full-time catcher because he calls better games. But they forgot the fact that Andrew Knapp sucks at baseball. That's the problem. You forgot that Andrew Knapp was actually a horrendous baseball player, and a banged-up JT Realmuto is 7,000 times better than Andrew Knapp. Andrew Knapp last year batted 152. You heard that correctly, 152. Now, the year prior, he hit 278, and I remember there was a lot of noise surrounding Andrew Knapp. Obviously, Andrew Knapp is not what we are going to be discussing for this year specifically, but he's probably somewhere in between 213. He had a 198 season his second year in the league. He stinks. He's probably more in that 213, though, than a 152. Probably more in that 200, really, than a 213. I can't believe I'm giving Andrew Knapp 213 credit. Shame on me. I'm a disgrace. I should be fired. JT Realmuto, being that second wave. What I mean is, you have your stars, Mookie Betts. Right? You have those type of stars. Bryce Harper. Schwarber. Castellanos. JT last year was what we are getting at a Castellanos in terms of where he's batting. We needed him to be Castellanos. We needed him to have that type of bat. Well, now he's 4 guys behind that, but that's what we needed last season. We desperately needed everything from JT. Well, if you need everything from JT, you're going to come up short. And that's not a knock on JT. It's just realistic on what he is in this league, and that's fine. But on an actual squad that might have a chance to make the postseason and play in a series in October, if he's a number 2, and I'm not talking batting order, but outside of Bryce Harper and Rhys Hoskins, let's say he's a number 3. Well, now he's a 6. Now he's a 7. Now he's in that range, a 6 range. You see the difference on what your team is when that is the case? It changes literally everything. Those are my thoughts on this squad right now. I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me tonight, talking Phillies baseball. They play again tomorrow. We'll see if Kyle Schwarber is going to be attacking the baseball through the zone and making us all giddy inside like we're 5 years old watching 08 Phillies. I wasn't 5 in 08. That's terrible math. Awful. Disgrace I am. With that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you next time.